Literally, that's possibly the fastest stank face that I've ever had. Welcome back to Andertons TV. Chris needs no introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. It's Chris Buck from Cardinal Black, here to talk about his new signature pedal, the Electric Lightning. Welcome back, Mr. Chris.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Well, we always say it's been a while, and then I go, oh, maybe it hasn't been.
Probably, yeah. It's just, yeah.
No, look, man, it's a pleasure to have you back. We're going to talk about life, the universe, gear, update to your pedal board. It's a very different looking pedal board to the last time I saw you. Your amp has a few more battle scars. Sorry, your guitar has a few more battle scars, and you have a new
I have a few more battle scars.
So, what is new? Tell us about, 2024 so far with Cardinal Black. What's happening, man?
Yeah, we've been busy. We've been recording our second record. We're out in Zurich doing that because we thought, well, Switzerland's a pretty cheap place to live and record records, so let's go to Switzerland.
Massive tax dodge.
Yeah,
that's what it really is.
Totally. Don't get me in trouble. So we've been in Zurich recording the second record. That'll be out later this year to coincide with a tour that we're doing of the UK and the US, actually. A little bit disingenuous to call it a tour in the US. We're kind of dipping our toe across the pond, as it were. We're doing a show at the Basement East in Nashville. We're doing the Troubadour in Los Angeles, and we're doing a festival in Omaha in Nebraska. So we're in the US, we're doing a tour in the UK, we're doing Shepherd's Bush Empire in London, we're doing Rock City in Nottingham. So there's a couple of kind of dream bucket list venues there, We've been lucky enough to do Shepherd's Bush Empire with Miles Kennedy and the Struts in the past, and it's one of the most incredible places I've ever played. So maybe aside from the Albert Hall, So looking forward to it. It's going good.
I'm so pleased for you, man. I was saying over lunch that the step up in venues and stuff that you're playing and selling out. Now at Cardinal Black.
Presumptuous, but I like your optimism.
No, it's a credit to you, man. It's great to see you having some success on that front. So look, now, last time you were here, well, maybe the first time you were here, I have to probably credit you with really pushing the boundaries of that sort of multiple using overdrive pedal. So I think the first time you came on, you had maybe
what you can do with just 5 notes.
Yeah, like 6 or 7, maybe not 7, but 5 or 6 overdrive pedals on your board, and you were very rarely using them individually. You were often going, I use these 2 for this sound, or even these 3 for that sound, or whatever. So the first thing I'm noticing with the new board, and again, we'll plug the Electric Lightning in on its own in a second, but the first thing I'm noticing is there's now a lot less drive pedals, and I suppose, is this down to the fact that you're feeling like it's all in here now?
No. There's an underside of the board where there's some more stuff crammed in. Actually, not that many overdrives, to be honest. All joking aside, it's been a long time in the making. Obviously, I've been a big fan of Thorpy stuff for a long time, gone through different Thorpy pedals, and it kind of felt like a natural, not conclusion, that would be very much the wrong word, but kind of culmination, I guess, of everything that we've kind of talked about and spoken about and bandied these ideas around for a little while, and it feels like it's culminated in the Electric Lightning. So it's needless to say, it's an overdrive pedal, because if I'm going to put my name to anything, it's probably going to be an overdrive pedal and a boost pedal. To be used individually or in conjunction, and that's about all you're going to get in regard to product spiel from me. So,
I can tell you lovely people watching here that if you look little closely in through the side here, you do see something that I'm rather partial to, which is a valve. A real genuine ECC 83, I think, that's the size of it. I had a quick look at the spec of this before, so we've got a solid state boost, a little bit different to the boost that's in the Dane, but coming from the same kind of family, but a boost with a cut and a boost feature. And then we've got the valve overdrive section, which and the two things work independently or together, so it's pretty exciting. So what we're going to do is just quickly unplug some things, and we're just going to plug this pedal into this amplifier, and Chris will take us through some sounds.
Cool, let's do it.
Cool. Well, here it is in isolation. So let's just hear, you're obviously going for a hyper clean tone off the amplifier. I know the tour you've just done's been using big Fenders, isn't it? What were they, Vibroverbs or?
It was Super Reverb.
Super Reverb.
66 Super Reverb and a 61 Fender Concert.
Yeah, so tons and tons of high headroom with any gain really just coming from the pedal.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, okay, so this is what our amp sounds like with no pedal. And I know the amp will take a ton of boost before it goes into overdrive. So you're pretty much hearing anything overdrive-wise you're hearing from here.
From the pedal.
So you've got here then these 3 and these 2. So you've got 5 knobs that are distinct to the drive side, and then they are treble, middle and bass on one side, and then the volume and the gain above each other.
Yeah.
And boost on this side with, again, it's got that low boost circuit that I think the Dane utilises. Are you using it typically, the boost just to drive for extra gain, or are you using the 2 sort of independently?
Boost primarily just as a bit of a sweetener. It's just one of those kind of things that once you turned it on, it's hard to turn off because it makes everything sound better. It's one of those kind of situations, I guess. And then tend to, as of yet anyway, it might change in the future, tend to use either side independently of each other. I've not really stacked them together all that much, although they sound great like that, you know. So a bit of flexibility or kind of versatility is what we were shooting for. So
well, let's hear how the boost lifts the sort of the amp sound first.
Yeah, so that on.
You're such a dynamic player.
And person. And person.
I wouldn't say that. No, no, but was that? You know, is that very much a part of the sort of the searching for a tone and pedals and amps and guitars and stuff that just allow you to get that, you know, breadth of dynamic in your playing?
I think it's anything I use, you know, any kind of pedals, the endless search, you know, kind of digging through stuff. Is the one caveat or the one kind of prerequisite, I guess, is that it has to respond to dynamic changes, whether that's rolling the volume back, whether that's your pick attack, or you know, using the pick or using your fingers. It's got to respond. I won't say like an amp, because I guess that's the kind of ultimate cliche, and not every amp is uber responsive in that respect, but it has to respond to dynamic changes. That's the kind of one caveat. So yeah, I mean, that was never really a concern. Everything of Adrian's I've ever tried has always been very dynamically responsive in that respect, but I guess that was very much at the forefront of the design process, was it had to respond.
I forget on the board that you had before, and certainly I can't see anything on this board, but you're not going compression or anything like that. Is that almost the antithesis? I knew I was going to struggle with that word, but you know, would that be like the worst pedal that we could put on your board because it would remove?
There is a compressor underneath. It's very kind of sparingly used. I mean, if nothing else, it just tends to bring up noise floor, which is just a bit of a bugbear. You know, like I said, we've just been on tour around Europe, and some of the venue power is horrendously noisy. So the last thing you want to be adding into the chain there is something to just bring that noise floor up. But you know, I think the approach I've always taken with pedals, you know, guitars are tools, pedals are tools, amps are tools. You know, it's just I'm just doing a job at the end of the day, irrespective of what that job is. You just use things that make that job a little bit better or a little bit easier. So I'm fairly kind of pragmatic in that respect, I guess. So, you know, as much as there tends to be a load of stuff at my feet, you know, I get a little bit of kind of grief about that online, especially as I tend to make everything sound the bloody same. But you just use what gets the job done, you know, and what makes me happy.
So let me have a little, whilst you're playing, can I just have a little fiddle around? Because I mean, obviously the boost as a cut is an interesting concept. I'm guessing that's almost more for when you're stacking it, isn't it? So let's just start. 12 o'clock is unity, so let's just see what this has got. Man, I mean, it is, you described it so perfectly. It's like, once you turn it on, you just don't want to turn it off, do you? I don't know what it is with, I think any valve amplifier I've ever used, if you just push the boost in it, fan it up, I know it does a thing.
I mean, it's the reason I fell in love with the Dane initially, you know, it was that, which is why I was pushing him for a kind of pedal which, for a while, which did that in isolation, you know, which obviously resulted in the heavy water, but you know, it is just an incredible sweetener. It's just one of those things that once you turn it on, like you said, you don't really want to turn it off.
Well, let's get over to the drive side. I think it's the first time I've ever seen Adrian use a valve in a pedal.
Yeah.
And although it's not completely never been done before, it's you know, it's probably less than 1 or 2% of drive pedals have got a valve in them. And yet you would think there would be more. As it's the natural way for an amp to try and do drive. So you've got, this was the setting you had at the beginning. So we've got gain pretty low. Interesting EQ setting. Again, dialing back the EQ and then using the volume to, what's that?
I mean, it's kind of, in terms of its EQ section, it's kind of Marshall based, I guess, and it's kind of, typically Marshall's quite bright sounding amp, so I tend to kind of err on the side of caution a little bit when it comes to the EQ settings, which is me really, beige. But yeah, so I tend to kind of keep things relatively kind of calm in that respect. But again, it was at the forefront of the design process of this was, you know, if you are going to go to the extent of designing a pedal with a bloody valve in it, let's make it versatile, let's make it as flexible as possible for different guitars, different amps, different setups, different pedal boards, etc., etc. Different types of players as well, and that's kind of one of the reasons that we didn't go down the route of having my face front and centre on it.
I mean, all of Adrian's pedals, actually I say all of them, the Dane is probably the only one that doesn't, but he loves his kind of military references. So
it was me that pushed him into that, actually.
Right, okay.
He kind of gave me carte blanche, really, to kind of call it whatever I wanted and, you know, go the Welsh Guard or whatever. But I said, well, you know, the kind of military thing, I guess, is very much his branding, you know, and the electric, I like the idea of it being the Electric Lightning. It's an old plane that he's informed me used to do the Mac loop, so technically there is a somewhat tenuous link to Wales there, and it would briefly pass through Wales, but it's obviously kind of, it's electric, there's a valve in it, Electric Lightning, yada yada yada, you can kind of join the dots yourself. So
let's just go from our clean tone to your sort of mild gain sound. And obviously, just take a note of what the settings are here so that when you buy one of these pedals, I guarantee you'll sound like Chris. Maybe not. Some beautiful playing, man. And I'm loving the fact that it's so easy to go from a reasonable amount of drive just with a heavier, you know, hit of the strings to very clean.
Yeah, again, it's quite responsive in that respect. You know, if we crank the drive for a second, there's a fair amount of gain on tap as well.
I just want to do the 12 o'clock test. So just like, you know, often sometimes find it's like, you know, for designer, this is almost how I feel like the designer intended the pedal to sound before the artist kind of starts, or the owner starts tweaking. But let's just see what it's... It is martially, isn't it? With that sort of like the higher frequency. I'm inclined to probably sit and go, I probably would back the treble down a little bit there, but it's a great sounding pedal. And it is, I think if you've played through amps that are distorted versus pedals that are distorted, you get used to that slightly smoother pedal sound that an amp has a slightly more open top end. And this has got that slightly more open top end, I think, you know.
Amp distortion, I think it's, especially as you said, if you're typically used to pedal distortion, it kind of rounds the edges off things a little bit, which I guess is desirable in some respects. In some respects, it can make things a little bit easier under the finger. If you've ever cranked an old amp, it's visceral. It kind of, you know, we'll put hairs on your chest, or take what few hairs you can manage to grow on your chin, it'll take them off. That and a stiff breeze in my case, but it can be a little bit of a quiet taste in that respect, but I think again that's why we've gone kind of fairly flexible with it to kind of the milder settings on it are more what you might expect a kind of a pedal to sound like in that respect.
Yeah, let's do that whilst you're playing. I'll literally fiddle around with some settings so people can see the extent. So. Oof. Okay.
There's a bit in there.
There's plenty in there. Get it. So was that roughly-ish how you'd normally have it? Because I'm going to just do it with the boost alongside now.
Yeah, thereabouts. Probably the kind of tone backed off a little bit. Yeah, give or take.
So if I put the boost at 12, and this will allow us to show why might you want to cut, because maybe you do want to use the other side to go into something a bit more subtle, maybe. Yeah. But here we go. But that's for me, that's classic two button style drive setting. So not too much on the drive. You know, if you have too much on the drive side and you put the boost in, there's almost nowhere for the nothing for the boost to really do.
Into mush.
But so like a sort of a low to medium style drive on the drive side with the boost obviously cranked a bit. This is a super sounding pedal.
It's been a while in development. I don't think Adrian was overly thrilled at the prospect of the amount of stuff which had to be kind of fitted in there. You look at it internally.
I mean, I'm guessing just the fact that it's got to have a valve in there is an engineering challenge. But he mentions that in the sort of the design notes of just like it is the most complex pedal that he's designed to date. I think it sounds super. I mean, we probably, for fans of your fans there, you've obviously seen you with this guitar for a while now.
Yeah.
So what is it about the Revstar that you kind of seems, because I'm just trying to think, pre-Revstar, you would change guitars quite a bit.
I was kind of a Strat guy for a very long time. Strat was kind of my kind of go-to. Still love Strats. I think what drew me to the Revstar initially was its kind of simplicity as much as anything else, At that time, with the first iteration of the Revstar, it was 3 positions, it was 2 pickups, a wrap-over tailpiece as well. It was just a very kind of stripped-back, kind of bare-bones rock and roll machine, which I particularly gravitated towards. And it was around the start of Cardinal Black as well, and having been, a Strat guy for a very long time, and being, I think you get not so much complacent, but a little bit kind of lazy in regard to your choices. And I just wanted a new band, new, whatever you want to call it, just kind of push myself somewhere a little bit different creatively, and it's kind of become the Cardinal Black sort of guitar, I guess, for better or for worse.
I'm loving the fact that, because I think you said this was a sort of a custom-made one for you in the US. So I don't know.
It was very lightly, there were a couple of kind of check-in lines when I got it. I basically asked them to give him a little bit of a head start, but all of the rest of the stuff, all of the kind of the greening, all of the paint wearing off, all of the, the kind of paint disappearing under the volume control, is me. The pickup being at an angle, I get innumerable questions about that. That's just because I'm a heavy-handed oaf who keeps knocking it into the floor. So it kind of needs to be a bit of a road dog, this guitar.
Yeah.
And,
Do you think P90s is you found your happy place now with P90s?
I think so. It's the ultimate cliche, I guess, with P90s, that they are that kind of happy halfway house between a humbucker and between a kind of Strat single coil, if you will. They just do everything. They're so versatile, and I think because of the chronology and how they were kind of superseded by the humbucker, which bucked the hum, of course, the last thing on earth. Why would anyone want the hum? You know, why would you use an older kind of antiquated design when you have a humbucker? They're just a great sounding pickup. They do stuff that humbuckers don't. There's a kind of raspiness and a raunchiness to them, but there's a kind of like faux clarity. You back the volume off and you get a kind of faux acoustic kind of thing. You know, they're such a versatile pickup. You know, they're kind of criminally. Every time I say they're underrated, I get people kind of biting my head off saying they're not criminally underrated. It's just, they're just kind of probably more people should use them. So it's
definitely the least common of you know, if you're single coil humbucker and P90. It's the least well known, and I think it sounds super. I mean,
and misunderstood as well. You know, you get people asking me, do you prefer single coils or P90s? Well, they're kind of one and the same. You know, it is a single coil. It's just a different type of single coil. So
yeah, it's a great sound. And I was obviously unbelievably pleased and proud to hear that you were going to endorse the new MK Clean.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a beast of a 100-watt clean amplifier. Is this part of the dynamics of really wanting an amp that just doesn't break up?
I kind of shied away from that for a little while. That was very much me with a Strat, and I think again, as part of that idea of, you know, total change of scenery, let's kind of, you know, use smaller combos that kind of do give you that compression and do give a little bit under the fingers. You know, for a long time, there's nowhere to hide with an amp like that. That's the kind of caveat with it, is that if you have a bad night, if you have a great night, everyone hears it. If you have a bad night, everyone hears it, for better or for worse. Everything comes through. It's like plugging into a PA system in that respect. You know, it's very unforgiving. And I think it took me a little bit of time to kind of build up the confidence to go back to something like that, you know. Having gone smaller amps, you know, and having gone to amps that do naturally give and do naturally break up. But it's an amazing sounding thing, you know. I'm excited to get my hands on one.
All right, well, look, let's perhaps do a little bit of a play out, and again, we can, you know, feel free to add some other effects in off your board.
Yeah, cool.
Links are below to this pedal. It's out now. You can go order yours, get it tomorrow with free delivery from Andertons. But yeah, that's a super sounding pedal, and congrats to you and to Adrian and the team at ThorpyFX as well. Yeah, also again, supporting British and Danish artists, you know, with great gear. So, all right. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks, Chris, for coming in.
Pleasure.
See you later.
See you soon.